Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking.
Today's training evolution, dogfighting, taking on the corporate media.
The rules of engagement are as follows. Number 1, don't fire unless fired upon, but when they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force. Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill. Number 2, never ever back down from a fight.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or ask a question? Number 3, don't accept their narrative.
It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts.
It's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's turn up on.
Good morning.
Welcome to Get Real America,
Where we're going to get real by getting down and telling you what really happens and get to the truth.
Well, we have some exciting stuff today. We had the Great Uniter last night come on TV.
Oh man, sure put the roses back in my cheeks.
I mean, I'm glad it did something.
Yes, sirree. What a great uniter that we heard. Remember the inauguration speech where he was going to bring us all together, and how the lamestream media told us what a wonderful person we've just elected. At least that's what they said he was.
I mean, at least he doesn't send mean tweets.
No, he doesn't, and hasn't been banned from Twitter as far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there may be some collusion with Twitter, but we'll get to that later on.
We're speaking, of course, of the so-called President of the United States, who went to Philadelphia and standing outside of Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence and all of that other stuff was, as the media might refer to it, signing and standing out there. It was unfortunate to see him standing out there with real American heroes like the Marines. I wish they'd walked off, to tell you the truth.
I mean, I wouldn't have been mad at him, but I will say the way that they had the building backlit and just the imagery that portrayed. Backlit red, I mean, he looks evil.
The Fuhrer would be pleased. I've never seen it. This is dictatorship. This is despots trying to tell you what to do. And like you said, the backlighting, I thought that this could have been done from communist China or Russia.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
So also, that was more of a campaign speech than anything. It really wasn't, there was no substance to that speech, except for, I think the main thing I took away from it is everyone should hate MAGA.
And the most unbelievable thing was that, of course, we heard from the Minister of Propaganda at the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre, was telling us this was not going to be a political speach.
Oh, that wasn't political?
Yeah, no. This was not going to be a political speech. Not going to be talking about Donald Trump or anything of that nature. He mentioned Trump 3 times. He mentioned MAGA 12 times. And talked about and just spread these false narratives. We have said before, and we'll say it again, this was Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals on steroids. In fact, you tell people about what the other side is doing because that's what you're doing. And
well, you also hold them to the rules, but you don't play by the rules.
Not once did he. I kept listening for when he was talking about the January 6th riot. He was referring to that, of course, the January 6th insurrection, and I was listening for the riots of summer of 2020, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, when cities were destroyed and burned down that didn't deserve to be. Police were attacked and many killed. A lot of civilians were killed or injured seriously. Businesses were destroyed. Over $2 billion worth of damage. Federal buildings were attacked. And police officers were attacked unmercifully by these rioting mobs. And then we were told by the Communist News Network and others, mostly peaceful. I didn't hear him condemning that in any way, shape, or form, but because a few people ran into the Capitol building, and it was bad, but a couple of people ran in with Viking helmets on, suddenly that was the worst thing that ever happened since the Civil War.
Yes, and I don't condone what happened on January 6th at all. However, when police are opening the door for you,
Yeah.
you
And
might
ushering
get,
you in.
Right, you might get the indication that things are okay and that you're allowed to go in there, right? So I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there coming from the media. I mean, what can we expect from them, really? But I don't think that people fully understand what. Number one, they're not releasing all the video. I think that that's a number one indicator. We know that there's how many cameras on that property?
Oh, hundreds, if not thousands. So we've got hours and hours of video that we haven't seen. And people just walking in. There have been people that have been arrested. They just walked in. They're walking around. This isn't insurrection. They were just to redress some things that they might have had. You know, the Constitution calls for. You don't particularly like what the government's doing. You have a chance to go to and petition and say, well, look, we'd like you to look into this. We don't believe that this election was legitimate, and we'd like some answers. Instead, many of them have been arrested. Do you realize, Brittany, that we have people that are still in jail?
Yes.
Over this?
And no due process and no charges filed.
Exactly. Haven't been allowed to see their lawyer.
Their family.
Some of them have been in solitary confinement. It is pathetic, and the media is totally ignoring it.
Well, I think that that's when you know that things are getting, they're turning up the heat on the pot, if you will. Mm-hmm. But when they are starting to now use and weaponize different departments against their political enemies, I think that and enemies is a very strong word, but at this point, I don't know that they think that we can live in the same country. Exactly.
And weaponizing every aspect of the government, including, of course, leading right at the top of the list, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and then, of course, we've got the Internal Revenue Service now, with their hiring 87,000 new agents, and it's not just to answer your phone calls.
Do you know the average salary of an IRS agent?
$60,000.
$81,000. And do you know what we're hiring police at?
Well, I know here in Savannah, where our show is located, we're starting our police officers at 50,000.
Yes, the average in the country is 41,000.
Uh-huh.
So 87,000 IRS agents they're hiring. We could hire almost double for the same price.
Number of police officers.
Or we could pay them more. Or we could pay them more money.
Pay them more money.
I mean, I think that they deserve more money. I think that that's one hell of a job, Bill, that they have to do.
We're giving you, let's say the high end here, $50,000. We're giving you $50,000 here. Strap on this gun and go on out and protect our lives with yours.
Right, and I think people also have to understand that these people don't get to deal with the best people in our population.
Exactly.
It's criminals. It's people that don't respect anyone, including the police, and that's a really tough job to want to sign up for $50,000, especially when IRS agents that are going to be weaponized against us are going to be making around $81,000.
When you shoot at someone who actually has a gun and you know they have a gun, then you know that these are bad people.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they will shoot at you thinking maybe you don't. So we're all in favor of that. But just to give you a little sample of what we heard last night from the faux president of the United States at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly shove. Let's take a look at what we actually heard, and we like your analysis.
I don't have anything from last night.
Okay? Well, let's just say that it was god awful. I cannot believe the rhetoric of this guy, of sitting here telling us about how bad we are because we support Donald Trump and how bad things. Look at the state of the country now as opposed to when Donald Trump was the president.
I mean, according to him, we have the best economy that we've ever had, and we have more people working than ever, according to Joe Biden in his speech last night.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? I see a lot more help wanted signs than anything these days.
That's all you see.
So where are these people? They're not working.
Beats me.
Where are these numbers coming from, Bill?
I have no idea, because everywhere you go, they're getting their knees bloody, begging people to come to work. So I don't understand it. I do not understand it. When you pay people not to work, though, it sort of seeps into that psyche that says, okay, the government's going to take care of me. If you owe something, so all of us now have a student loan debt. I didn't ever realize I was going to have student loan debt again. I actually never had it because I paid for college while I was going. But now I've got student loan debt again.
So there is no way that this is constitutional. No way that he can do this. I think that we're now seeing what happens when you give them that emergency power little card that they can pull. Mm-hmm. Now everything's an emergency. We're going to see more of this climate change stuff turn into an emergency so that they can use it to weaponize it against us, right? So I think that if anything, we've learned a lesson that you cannot give the government more power because they just keep going.
You never, it goes back to Abraham Lincoln's old saw that said that if you want to see someone's true character, give them power. And that's exactly what we've seen with this crowd of the most incompetent people on the face of the planet that have extremely important positions. And these are people that run your lives and have passed laws to run your life.
And have no experience to do so.
No.
I think that that's the biggest thing is that we don't have people that are qualified to be in the White House to make any decisions. Not only that, the people that we're electing, a lot of them, while they are attorneys, I think that they need to be removed. Like people that are attorneys, I don't feel like they serve people very well because I feel like they're really good at creating loopholes in a lot of these bills, and it makes it really difficult for American people to also read something that's 700 pages. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to sit down and read that. I don't have time, and most people are raising families and don't have time to read those bills.
If you remember when the Dalai Lama got elected, one of the things they said they were going to do before they passed any legislation, they were going to post it online, so everybody could see it. We're going to be the most open and honest administration. We heard that from Nancy Pelosi, said that this was going to be the most honest and group of the most integrity in the history of the planet, and you were going to be able to read these bills right online. And the bill started coming out. Obamacare, I think, is about the size of the Oxford English Dictionary. And look where we are. Look what it did to the medical profession.
It's ruined it.
It has ruined it. We used to have the best medical care in the world. It's still pretty good, despite the fact that everything that they've done to destroy it. But we had doctors that either went out of business, lost their practice, or they merged with other doctors, or they were hired, went to work for the hospitals themselves. So it cut down a lot on their income. And so a lot of people lost their jobs in doctors' offices. And then you couldn't get but remember the promise that we were made. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. In fact, I'm so old, my Social Security number, my Social Security card says, not for identification.
Well, that's not true anymore.
another law another lie that the government has been telling us for 70 or 80 years. You cannot trust them. When they tell you something, you can take that with the proverbial grain of salt. In fact, you ought to take it with a barrel of salt because it ain't happening.
No, and I think we saw from Biden's speech last night is that he basically demonized 74 million people, and then he decided that he was going to be the great uniter at the end. But I feel like we need to unite us mainstream Republicans and the Democrats, and we need to go against the MAGA crowd. That's what I understood from his little speech last night.
If I hear him one more time talking about how we're a threat to their precious democracy, I think I'm going to toss my cookies.
Who knew that to be an extremist, you wanted your kids to be educated with no CRT, and you wanted them to be called a boy or a girl?
Yeah.
We are so extreme.
Yeah,
so
good
extreme.
On the pronouns. How about you English teachers start working on verb and subject agreement? Because I've heard some of the people, including our professionals in this business, speak, and you could go back to English 101 class for a little grammar lesson or two.
I mean, that would be nice, Bill. That would be great if we could have kids graduating that could read, that could write, that were prepared to take on some of these roles that we need desperately in this country right now.
They stopped, in many cases, teaching cursive writing in the schools. I know that over the years when I've been in television as well as radio, would get thank you notes from kids that we did stories on or something like that, promoted something that they were doing. Not one of them is written in script. For the last 20 years, I've gotten letters and cards that were printed no writing. Our grandchildren go to school, and very good schools up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we wrote them a little thank you note one time, and they wrote back and said, please don't write in script because we can't read it.
Oh my goodness. Well, what other document is written in script, Bill?
The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, put two and two together. I know that sometimes
you're
that
talking
equals
about
5.
math.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about English. Let's talk about math too that they're not learning.
Yes, exactly. But I think that that's one thing that is interesting, because who can read those now? If they're not teaching that and your grandkids are asking you not to write in script, I mean, that's pretty bad.
It is. Fortunately, in our Chatham County schools in Savannah, they did start teaching cursive writing again, after I railed about it on the air a few times. So we'll be talking about that and more coming up here. You're listening to and watching Get Real America.
We'll be right back.
As your governor, I promise you, whatever challenges come our way, I will always lead the California way.
You
I say that's the California way.
guys are really awesome. Thank you so much.
Based on compassion,
I mean, if we're going to be realistic, they'd pay you to be homeless here.
common sense. Clean and sober is one of the biggest damn mistakes this country's ever made. We all need to self-medicate periodically. Telling the truth. Telling the truth. Treasuring our diversity.
Success to hit my...
Telling the truth. Following science. Protecting our planet.
Love like yours will surely come my way. Hey, hey, hey.
Gavin Newsom, courage through crisis.
My fellow Americans, it looks like some things have changed. Are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents?
You want an abortion? Get one!
Younger parents aren't sure that an appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
When I drive into a neighborhood and there are American flags, it's a message of white supremacy.
I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result in an erosion of the American spirit.
We need to completely
dismantle the police department.
If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is free, and freedom is special and rare. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise. As long as we remember our first principle and believe in ourselves, the future will always be ours. Ours was the first revolution in the history of mankind that truly reversed the course of government, and with three little words: we the people. We the people are free. Once you begin a great movement, there's no telling where it'll end.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
And I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad you could join us, and we'd like your comments, so please follow us on Facebook and just put your comments there, or what's left of Facebook. It's now, of course, MAGA.
MAGA?
Mega.
Oh, Meta.
Meta, yeah,
Meta.
Yeah.
The metaverse. They're really,
yes,
they're trying to get us to live in this really virtual reality.
Not to be confused with Metamucil.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can confuse those two, but I mean, it's about as worthless as that. But let's jump into like Georgia politics. Herschel Walker, he's running for Senate, and he had a lot to say about Biden's uniting speech last night.
Yeah, he was on the Ingram Angle last night with actually Raymond Arroyo was sitting in for Laura, and he said that he was appalled at the remarks that the president made, because he said the president said that MAGA Republicans represent the extremism that is the very foundations of our republic. Oh, please. I'll toss my cookies. But he said that not all Republicans are MAGA Republicans. It's only the MAGA Republicans that are threatening, not the Democrat Party, because they're the ones who are defunding the police, stand up for killing babies, stand up for bringing illegal aliens in here by the carload. So it's not them that's destroying the republic. It's MAGA Republicans that are doing it. And Herschel's, and by the way, he's up 2 points in the polls over Raphael Warnock, one of the empty suits that we have up there in the Senate right now. And he is demanding and asking for a debate here in Savannah to be televised statewide. And so far, the guy who tried to accuse Herschel of not accepting a debate, Herschel is now saying, I want to debate you October the 12th on television, statewide, right here in Savannah.
Isn't it amazing how once you call their bluff, all of a sudden they're like, I'm really busy. I don't know if I'm going to make that debate.
And have you noticed, speaking of people who are really busy and calling the bluff, and there is not a single Democrat candidate that's running right now that wants Joe Biden to come run with them. Every Republican, you remember, wanted Donald Trump to campaign with them.
They still do.
I know.
They want that endorsement.
Absolutely.
They were really working for those endorsements this primary season.
But every one of the including Stacey Abrams here, had some scheduling conflict and couldn't meet the president when he came down a few months ago. And then the cretin that's running for Senate in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman.
That guy.
Three opportunities to meet with the president. He said, "No, I'm focusing on my campaign. I don't have time. There's a scheduling conflict with the president coming on with me, and not that he knows where he is either."
I was going to say Fetterman's barely making it out of his basement these days.
When you see you have to wonder about the polls that show that he's so much far ahead of Mehmet Oz.
I mean, I don't understand it.
How could anybody vote for this guy? He looks like a reject from the Hells Angels bikers. He's running around
in these. I'm not going to lie, Bill. He kind of just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, he runs around. I heard the other day that he was like 50 something. He looks 85, and he's running around with his in his hoodies, and he can't put a sentence together just like the president.
Well, not only that, I think that we really need to look at people that are running and see if they're fit for office. And I mean, he just had a stroke. Should he really be running for office in Pennsylvania?
Not. And I apologize. I hope he comes to full recovery, but you can see that he still hasn't. And and when Dr. Oz has asked for a debate, he has turned that down.
Well, and I think he did like a short little interview the other day with someone, but it was like maybe a minute, maybe two. Like it was very short. But again, he's in a hoodie. What are you doing?
He tries to be a person. He's never had a job, by the way.
Comes
from a very wealthy family.
I did hear that.
He's had everything paid. He's had his house given to him. So he's never paid for anything, and yet he tries to be one of the people. I'm one of you guys. I'm one of the with the steel workers and things of that nature. He's never had a job in his life.
Well, not only that, wasn't he a mayor?
Yeah, I believe he was.
He was a mayor, and I believe that he's only gotten 2 endorsements from anyone in that city. And the current mayor said he left a huge mess for him to clean up, and that he was terrible. So, I mean, why do people continue to vote for people like Fetterman, like Joe Biden, who have a track record of doing nothing? And
all the years that we've heard of people say, we're tired of the career politicians. We don't want them in there anymore. And when we finally got Donald Trump, and look how things improved. Look what he was able to do, despite the fact that every news, with the exception maybe Fox and Newsmax and a couple of others, he was besmirched and attacked every day from the alphabet networks and from most newspapers like the Washington Compost and the New York Slimes. And you didn't hear a Democrat could not make a speech or go on television and say anything within the first 2 sentences talking about impeaching Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know if you remember when we were hearing Donald Trump on the campaign trail in 2015, as he was running for president in 2016, he said there will be Trump TV. He did say that. I don't think we ever could have imagined what that meant, but Trump is always on TV. Even currently on those stations and those networks, he is still always on TV. And I don't think we ever could have imagined what they would do to him.
Well, what a visionary. Because he predicted all of this when he said if you elect Biden, we'll have $5 gasoline. How close did he get? In some places it was more than that. I think in California they got up to $6 or $7 or more before it started coming down recently, because we started taking our strategic oil reserve out. And by the way, let me congratulate our governor here in Georgia, Brian Kemp, who has just extended the suspension of the sales tax on gasoline here in Georgia through October the 12th. That's the third time he's extended that.
I believe that we will also see this extended through the election.
We very well could, yes.
Very interesting that he chose that date, because I do think that there will be another extension prior to the election, which I will say, if we can suspend the gas tax now, why do we need it?
Well, of course, you can always see the boards that say, your gas tax at work when they're doing new construction of roads and things of that nature. What bothers me is that not necessarily the gas tax. I understand, because it is designated for a certain purpose.
If they're using it for that purpose, but then they double dip. That's what I don't like, because now you also have other taxes that are paying for roads. So what bothers me is that they're trying to put on the ballot, and they're doing it here in Chatham County, and they've done it in some other counties, is what's called a T-SPLOST tax, a special purpose local option sales tax that you vote for. And we voted for a penny tax here in Savannah, and that money goes to parks and recreation and little extra things that are not taken out of not paid for by our regular taxes. And they give you the big pitch by it's paid for by people that are coming in from out of town. All the visitors that we have, they're paying for it as well. But we're paying for it all the time. But the T-SPLOST tax is a transportation special purpose local option sales tax. It's interesting, Brittany, that the government never seems to have enough money. No matter how much we give them. If they were taking all of it, they would probably send you a bill at the end of the year, at the end of the month. You hear, we've taken all of your paycheck, but you need to send us some more from the next paycheck. Well, or you need to get a second job to pay your taxes.
Exactly.
So.
And then of course you get taxed double for that job.
Yes. Well, the thing that bothers me, Bill, is, okay, you're asking for more money. Okay, let's talk about that. I want to see your guys' budget. I want to see every dime that's being spent. Where is it going? Because don't keep coming back to us and asking for more when you can't even account for the money we've given you. And I don't know why they can look at all of our records and see, okay, you spent this amount of money, you transferred this amount in a Venmo, which is those little cash apps, and now they want to be able to track that digitally, which is why we're having more IRS come in. But they want to track all of that money, but you can't ask for, hey, where did all of my tax money go to? I want a breakdown of every single tax I paid and where it went. How come we can't have that?
Well, I think because we don't stand up. And we, as taxpayers, we are not united. We don't have a union, as it were. So we don't have that power other than going to the ballot box and throwing these people out. And sometimes because they're incumbents and people aren't paying as much attention as they ought to, then they either get reelected, or the people who don't like them didn't go to vote anyway, and then start complaining. If you don't vote, for God's sakes, don't complain.
Yeah, and if you are voting, be educated when you vote. Like, voting is it's such an amazing thing that we have the opportunity to do. But if people aren't participating, then what's the point? We
take it for granted.
Absolutely.
And look at what happens. We'll talk about it right after the break. Look at what happens in countries that haven't had it for a long time, and then when they did get it, look at the results in their voting. We'll talk about that more next. This is Get Real America. We'll be right back.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Raphael Warnock voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Warnock to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Georgia families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
Welcome back.
This is Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we're glad you're here. We were talking about the voting rights that we have in this country. And it's a shame that we don't take it when we're not teaching civics like we should anymore, or if they are, they're certainly not teaching what needs to be taught about the greatness of America and about the importance of elections and the importance of your voting. When we liberated the people of Iraq some years back, they went when they went to vote for the first time, they were standing in line for, if not hours, days, with mortar shells falling around. They had to they had to have voter ID type thing. They had the purple finger. Remember that when you voted, you got kind of like you were fingerprinted. They give you a purple finger. They were so proud to be showing up their purple finger that they had voted for the first time in their lives, and they stood in line for hours with mortar shells and machine gun fire going on around them. That's how important they thought it was and how special they thought it was. The same thing happened in South Africa when Nelson Mandela, the communist that took over down there. Communism has done well for South Africa, hasn't it? Right, it really has. But they stood in line for days to vote for the first time in their lives.
And now we complain that we have to stand in line for a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. And early, and they said, well, we can't vote on Tuesdays, just on Tuesday. So we started early voting. We have early voting here in Georgia for almost 3 weeks before the election. I do not like early voting. It costs us more money because these people we have to have the machines up and running, and somebody has to be monitoring the polls there. And to a degree, I don't trust it, but something could happen. 3 weeks in politics is a long time. We saw in the last election, so many things came out like a week or two before. Yep. If you've already voted, and you say, "Oh, if I'd have known that,
I wouldn't have voted."
Like the Hunter laptop,
yep.
I wouldn't have voted for this guy. And yet, too late. You've already voted. Maybe 1 week at the most, but maybe 1 day. But maybe we could have one of your suggestions is.
I think it should be a national holiday.
A national holiday.
I think it should be a really fun, exciting thing, and we should be celebrating the fact that we get to vote. And why not make it a holiday? Then more people could vote. I will say, there a lot of people work, and so it can be difficult to get out of work, or it seems like a hassle, so you just don't do it. But if it's a national holiday and we make it part of the American culture to celebrate that day, and I mean, go grab like pizzas, have a barbecue, go vote.
Just like a 4th of July, get a 4th of July celebration. They could have the food trucks come out. You can mark your place in line and go out, and get your barbecue sandwich or your fried chicken or whatever it is that you want.
You're speaking my language, Bill.
Yeah, boy. And let's debunk the myth that they've started spreading here in Georgia, that because when we came up with some laws that said we'd like to know who you are when you vote, and you need what is the objection to having an ID? You have to have an ID to get a check cashed. You have to have an ID to get on an airplane. In the radio station where I worked for 20 years, if somebody won a prize, and I mean, it could have been a CD or it could have been tickets to a concert, you had to have a photo ID in order to get this prize that was worth probably no more than $25. The most important thing you do as a citizen is vote. That's the most important thing that you do as an American citizen. And to have places where it says you just show up and you can vote. You don't have to register to vote. You don't have to tell them who you are. You can go to several different places and vote if you want to. Is disgusting.
Well, I think if you actually have to get government assistance, I believe that you have to have ID, Bill.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, I believe you do.
Sure. So, not only that, if you want to drink alcohol, if you want to smoke, if you want to do anything to do with tobacco, you have to have a license. You have to have ID showing your age.
When this first came up and the controversy first started, Sonny Perdue was our governor, and he said that, you know, and I had a chance to interview him right afterward, and he couldn't believe the opposition to it. He actually said, they said, well, you know, some people can't afford an ID. They can't afford an ID. It doesn't cost anything. He said, we will come to your house if you don't have a federal ID or a voter ID card. We'll come to your house. We'll set up a bus in the neighborhood. You can just come over, no charge. You get the photo ID.
Well, Bill, have you seen those videos where they'll go to a college campus and they'll ask, you know,
Mhm.
the white liberal crowd, if they think that asking for ID is racist, and they're like, absolutely, it's so hard for black people to go get an ID, like it's very difficult, you know, they don't have the same resources that we have. And then you go to the Bronx in New York and ask these people, like, I could tell you where the driver's license division is, how you get one, like I can give you directions. Everyone should have an ID. You gotta have an ID for everything.
If you go to a state school, you get an ID now. That's legal to show for voting. So they managed to do that. They managed to, and like you said, they managed to get IDs to get food stamps or to get any other government assistance. You have to have the photo ID. So why it is discriminatory or racist to do it this time, and they try to compare it to the poll taxes where they used to charge blacks in order to vote.
Oh, my favorite is Jim Crow.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Crow. This is just like Jim Crow. It is not.
No.
And they are so divisive when they say stuff like that. And unfortunately, you have Biden saying that when he was here, and when Stacey Abrams refused to meet with him.
Mhm.
And then you also have Stacey Abrams backing this kind of rhetoric, which is very dangerous, and it doesn't serve Georgians at all.
And you know, the president said that it wasn't. This was that our laws here were not just. It was not Jim Crow. It was Jim Eagle. It is just pathetic that we are trying to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. That is the only difference. You should not be. You should be excited over the fact that the person who goes to vote is that person, and they don't vote anywhere else.
And I worked the polls for the primary election, and I will tell you that people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're checking ID?" It's like, yeah, like they're like, "We're so grateful they didn't do this last time." So
Here,
yeah,
I've been the last 25, 30 years I've voted here. I've never gone to the poll where I hadn't had to show the ID.
yeah, they were excited. We were checking IDs and checking signatures on the
Mhm.
ID.
Right.
So I think that depending on which polling station you're at, though, depends on how you're doing things, because it's based on how you're trained. So I think it can differ based off of where your polling station is, or your voting station. Sorry.
Well, I think the most important thing is that we start teaching in our schools, civics classes, on the importance of being an American citizen, the importance of America, and look what the world is turning into now that America is getting weak again. When we're defunding the police, we're defunding the military, we're running people out of the military if they don't have the precious COVID shot, which is proved to be very ineffective, or they're not wearing masks. It just broke my heart to see the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milli Vanilli, and the defense secretary in masks and plastic shields over a face shield
That's
and
one
a
of the
mask.
most iconic pictures that they could post. It's is that Austin?
Yeah, Jim. Yeah.
Yeah. He
Lloyd
had that
Austin.
face.
Lloyd Austin.
Yeah. That's such a horrible picture. Like, just the antics of it.
And to run people out of the service for not getting a shot. And how effective has it been? The USS Milwaukee, one of our naval war vessels, was not able to perform one of its duties a few weeks ago because 80% of the crew, all of whom had been vaccinated and boosted, got COVID or had COVID, and they couldn't perform their duty.
Well, the shot actually only ends up being 12% effective. The original 2 shots, and now they're continuing to do boosters, and the new booster that they're releasing has not been tested on any humans.
Mm-hmm. But they're going to test it on you.
Yep.
And a lot of people are, and of course, you see the headlines in the New York Slimes or any of the Washington Compost or any of the others saying, why aren't parents getting their kids vaccinated when the vaccination has come out for the one 6 months and up? I don't know if they've come out one for kids that's still in the womb.
Well, the thing is if you get the vaccine, when you're pregnant, 8 weeks after, what it does to your placenta is horrible. And they're having to do a bunch of early deliveries because of it. So the vaccine is not safe.
It isn't. And we've had a lot of heart problems that have been developing
the
for young kids.
myocarditis.
The myocarditis that is happening because of these kids who have gotten these shots.
That are healthy, that do not need them.
Kids were not getting this. When we shut down our schools and shut down America, it was frightening how quickly this took place. And who are they trying to blame now?
Orange Man Bad.
Yeah, Orange Man Bad, yeah. Because he was listening to the science from Dr. Anthony Fauci. Tony is, I've never seen anybody who could change the subject so quickly or change his position on things so quickly than Tony Fauci.
Well, not only that, I think, but unfortunately for them, we have the receipts. Trump was out there saying we need to open schools, like we need to give it back to the states. We need to have them make those decisions based off of their population.
And what did they say about him? That he wanted kids to die.
Yep, and that he's a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think we also have to look at what those positions like Anthony Fauci's, what kind of power that they really do have, and the fact that they're not elected and they're in those positions for so long. I mean, they really can dictate a lot of things that happen in the government and that happen in our lives.
Fauci's the highest paid government official we have. He's got a $400,000 plus salary, and he's been there for almost 40 years or more. And I mean, he's done some good things in the past. But this was absolutely, first of all, he told us we didn't need a mask. Remember that? And when this thing first started, he didn't think COVID was going to come over here in the first place, or if it was, it wasn't going to be a big deal. And he said you don't need to wear a mask. Masks are, that not that much. Then all of a sudden, you needed to wear a mask, but he said you had to have a certain type. But the reason he told you at first that you didn't need a mask because he said there might be a shortage. So the people who really needed it in the medical profession, we wanted to make sure that they had masks. And when we started buying masks, and by the boatload, we were buying them from China. The list just goes on and on of the ridiculousness of this shutdown. And a Johns Hopkins study came out just a few months ago that said the shutdown was totally unnecessary. Masks were not effective. In fact, they did more harm than good. When I call masks ridiculous on my radio show, I had one dad call up and saying, just fussing at me that I wanted kids to die, I wanted them to get sick. And I said, no, they're getting sick because of those stupid masks.
Well, not only that, kids need to be exposed to things. That's when their immune systems are being built.
Exactly.
So it's really important that they are exposed to things.
We talked about the herd immunity.
Yeah. And kids are so durable. I mean,
yeah.
You hate to say that, but they're very durable.
Exactly.
At that, when they're younger.
And they weren't getting this in the first place.
No.
With very few exceptions. Nobody practically under the age of 18 was getting this disease anyway.
But they started scaring people and saying, oh, they can carry it. They can carry it. There'll be no symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with what happened and the things that we're finding out now that I can't believe that they continue to push this. Like, there's so much out there that contradicts what they told us.
The media has done such a great job of terrorizing us. Mm-hmm. And going along with this nonsense, and because it looked like we were working on, and Trump did a great job of getting all these pharmaceutical companies together and trying to get this vaccine. But when they found out that there was a drug that was on the market already, had been on the market for almost 70 years, and only cost about 50 cents a dose, hydroxychloroquine was doing a great job if taken early. Was getting, in fact, we had people were calling it. Sean Hannity had several people on who said that I was at death's door when they started giving me this stuff, and it saved my life. Suddenly, that became the biggest poison pill in the history of mankind. A drug that had been around for 60 years with an excellent track record, practically no side effects whatsoever, and not only could you not prescribe it, you might have been arrested for prescribing it or distributing it. Pharmacies were told doctors, we're not going to give that to you. Had a doctor in Atlanta tell me that he said he had to lie to the pharmacy about why he was prescribing hydroxychloroquine to one of his patients.
Well, it created a whole underground network of
Sure did.
of how to get this drug, and I think it did save a lot of lives, even though the media was telling us that it was worse tranquilizer pills.
More lives from the government. On the way next here on Get Real America.
Reckless spending, driving up inflation, higher prices that hurt Georgians.
I'm trying to save $2, and Senator Raphael Warnock votes to spend almost $2 trillion.
$140 to fill my truck. And Senator Warnock voted to allow $140 million to be spent building a resort in Florida?
$15 for burgers. Senator Warnock voted to allow $15 million to be spent on a soccer stadium in New Jersey.
Tell Senator Warnock to stop voting for reckless spending. Stop.
Stop. Please stop.
Welcome back to Get Real America, and we are going to take a look at some footage that was obtained by Project Veritas.
Bless their hearts.
I know. They do such great reporting. They're probably one of the only journalists that do a lot of this undercover stuff, and it's amazing the footage that they're able to get.
And they're paying the price in many cases with their
FBI raids.
Yeah.
Suing the New York Times. I mean, they have a lot of battles on their hands, but they have been able to expose a lot of this activism going on in the schools, and this one is no different. So let's jump into that video.
Oh no, don't tell me I'm doing that again. Why is it do that? Sorry guys. I recorded it.
Okay, well, we do not have that video. We're having a little bit of a technical issue this morning. Sorry
You
about that.
did get to see our producer.
Yeah.
And his granddaughter.
Yes, so you're welcome. So Project Veritas, this woman, she basically has said, we've basically gotten most people out of the school system because we can ask questions about, different things to determine if they're liberal enough or too conservative to work here.
And what does that have to do with anything?
They don't want those people in their schools because they would like to have their agenda pushed. And she says she has someone in the higher ranks that is pushing through a lot of their agenda items.
One of the things that is not mentioned in the Constitution is the public school system.
That surprises me, Bill. We have a huge focus on public schools. So.
Yeah, we sure do. And frankly, for the most part, I think they ought to be disbanded. There is nothing in the Constitution that says we have to have public education. And I hate to say it, and I know there's some great teachers. We're going to be painting with a broad brush here sometimes. We are not attacking the teachers. They are, in many cases, told what they have to teach. And I worked on a master's degree here just a few years ago, and I focused on social studies and civics and said, if we don't teach social studies and civics, we'll leave every child behind, because every child, no child left behind was the big thing that under President George Bush. It was a lousy program. It was a good sentiment of no child left behind. But I said, if we start teaching physics, even that, but civics as well as social studies, we leave every child behind. They don't know what this country is all about, and when you don't know what the country is all about, then you don't know. If you don't know where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. And one of the things that I pointed out was that this needs to be taught in our schools a lot. By the time the kids get out of elementary school, the Constitution ought to be coming out of their ears.
Absolutely. Not only that, they should understand how the government works.
Exactly.
And how, the different roles and how it impacts decisions in your life and what that looks like. Because I will tell you, until I got involved in politics, I didn't understand the system. And now I'm like, how did we allow a lot of this corruption to happen? Because the system is good. It works, but it's been corrupted. So now we have to kind of run this marathon, which is going to be very painful, but we have to do it.
Just because it was taught, came up by a bunch of evil white guys 250 years ago, suddenly it's not good anymore. It worked well for almost 250 years until they started screwing it up and telling lies about it.
So did you actually teach? Since you went back and got your master's, did you end up teaching in a school or no?
No, I did some substitute teaching and I did some adjunct teaching at the Savannah College of Art and Design and also Savannah Tech. And one of the things that amazed me, I was teaching remedial English at Savannah Technical College here, and when I started looking at the kids' papers, when I started looking at the work that they turned in, and how bad their English was, grammar-wise, how bad I told them, you can't. We talk about cursive writing earlier.
Oh, right.
I said you can't write in cursive. You can't even print because I can't read it. You're going to have to type all your stuff. But they could hardly put two sentences together. And I said, you have every right to sue the Savannah-Chatham County school system.
And they should have.
Because I said, I can't teach you in 12 weeks what you should have learned in 12 years. I diagrammed a sentence on the board one day, and they looked at me like I'd landed stepped off a flying saucer from another galaxy. They said, what is that? I said, well, it teaches you sentence structure. You got your subject, your verb, you got your adjectives here, the descriptive words, so on and so forth, and how it works. And they're like, huh?
What?
Yeah. It was pathetic what they did not know about grammar, about spelling, definitions of words. I was flabbergasted. But getting back to teaching civics and what this country is all about, and it is just pathetic that people don't know about the greatness of this country and how we became, within a matter of less than 100 years, once this country was established, how we were taking over from countries that had been in existence for thousands of years. Just like we have, this basically a new country.
Yep.
From that standpoint,
we're pretty young.
Mm-hmm. We tell people from a historic basis, this house is over 250 years old. In Europe, a 250-year-old house is still under new listings. I remember a Scottish comedian that was on the Tonight Show years ago, and he said, I come from a place in Scotland called Newbridge. He said, it's called Newbridge because they built a new bridge there in 1320. And he said, and the old bridge is still there. So their history goes back a long time. So how did we become the greatest country in the world, the most powerful, the richest, the most generous, in a matter of less than 200 years? It was because we established a free enterprise system. We emphasized the individual, not groups, and we let people do what they wanted to do. So they were free to develop things, come up with ideas, get paid for rewarded for what they did. And consequently, we had the best machines. We had the best agriculture. We had the best builders. We had the best steel. We had the best everything. And then we got blamed for it, and they're trying to, and the rest of the world is trying to blame, well, you're so rich and we're so poor. As if it's our fault we're so rich. It's their fault they're so poor. And they're trying to steal our pride, and they've done a darn good job of it. When you hear kids that won't, we've discussed this on, you have a relative that didn't know why there were stripes on the flag, or what the star stood for on the flag, or how many stripes there were, or what it was all about?
Yeah, so it was actually my friend's kid, 13 years old, and
13,
and asked him about the flag, and okay, how many stars are on the flag? He said 52, which I was like, do you know what the stars stand for? He's like, yeah, it represents the states. I was like, so we have 52 states? Well, I guess not. I guess we don't. I'm like, what is going on? What is happening in this country when those are basic things that people should know? We have adults that don't know that.
About the stripes.
Don't know about the stripes. They don't know about the stars. They don't know about Mount Rushmore and that it's located in the U.S., let alone in South Dakota. I mean, it's crazy to me how how they have really taken that lack of the pride that we used to feel for America and really damaged that by not teaching them any of the greatness that the country's about.
We've got groups that have, like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, that are trying to destroy Mount Rushmore, by the way, wanted to cover it up or something like that. And thank God we got Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, who said, not on my watch. That's not going to happen. My wife and I went there 3 years ago. It was one of those things we checked off on the bucket list to go to Mount Rushmore. I would go back to South Dakota in a heartbeat. We loved it. And that place was just beautiful. And that mountain is breathtaking. I'd had somebody, in fact, somebody told me that they were disappointed when they saw it because it was so small. Well, I don't know what mountain they saw. I don't know what monument they were looking at, but what I saw was not small, and it was not unimpressive.
Okay, can we talk about, I believe that all of the presidents on Mount Rushmore are Republicans, is that correct?
Well, I guess you could call him that.
Yeah.
George Washington, in case you don't know, was our first president. Yeah, there wasn't a Republican Party. Lincoln was the first, is there, and he was the first Republican. We have and Teddy Roosevelt, and you have Thomas Jefferson, who was not who was our third president.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, they were not Republicans as we think of them today. They would be as far as political standing goes. But the most impressive thing was just watching and the tour, and I highly recommend you go there, is the tour that they give you of what the monument really was supposed to look like. They were supposed to be showing them almost all the way down to their waist, but the mountain couldn't take it. And they said, well, could we put another picture, or carve another picture up there, or a bust? The mountain can't take that either. But to take a look at, then they show you the mountain, what it looked like before, and then the 20 or 30 years it took to do it. I don't understand. It's amazing to me that if you could take, just a piece of clay or something and do one bust with your hands, but to do it on a mountain of those, and every one of those busts, there's no doubt as to who they are.
Well,
they look like the guys.
When was that created? Because when you think about how amazing that is that they were able to do that.
Oh, the 30s.
Yeah.
30s and 40s.
So it blows my mind how great people were.
Yeah, but I mean, you said, okay, we need to put some dynamite over here and blow this part out, but we need to keep that. And I'm like, how did they do that? And by the way, they're still working on that of Crazy Horse.
Okay.
They're still working. They said that monument won't be finished for another. I mean, you can tell who it is, and a lot of it's carved out, but they have a model of how it's supposed to look when it's finished. So they still have a lot of work to do. It looks like another. It won't be done in my lifetime.
Oh, wow.
But it is breathtaking. This monument of Crazy Horse up there, and as a birthday present, my wife let me take the helicopter ride up where we went up, and you saw it from above. And it was mind blowing. So we highly recommend South Dakota, which is where Mount Rushmore is.
And it's in the United States of America.
That's right. Yes. South Dakota is a state in America.
Yes.
Below Canada.
Yes. There was another girl that said Hawaii was its own country, and I was like, where do these people come from? Where do these people come from, Bill? This is what the public schools are producing, and why the education department probably shouldn't exist or should be sent back to the states.
It's why you need to worry about the people who are going to be running our medical facilities 20 years into the future, building our airplanes, our electric cars.
Well, even now,
if you don't know which end of a screwdriver to hold, I'm worried about that, or what a screwdriver is even for.
That's the other thing. They just are so focused on this activism that we even have physicians that are involved, medical boards are involved in this activism. They're not following the science.
Exactly.
It's scary now. In 20 years, if we don't put an end to this stuff, it's about to get really scary.
It's the witch doctors. I mean, it's good. It is frightening that they don't go by what they keep telling us about. We keep getting labeled as science deniers. If there's the ultimate science deniers are the people that are coming out of our colleges now.
Absolutely. Well, I was talking to my dad, and he's like, he hates switching doctors. His doctor actually changed the way that he does his practice, and now it's no longer covered under my parents' insurance because of all the shenanigans that are going on in healthcare
great.
right now. Yeah. So he ends up going to a younger physician, and my dad's like, literally, he's just Googling stuff on the computer. He's not actually. So for me, I actually prefer to go to older physicians because
the doctor was Googling stuff?
Yes, when my dad was telling him symptoms. This is the Google generation of doctors. It's not good. That's what, like, experience matters. Mm-hmm. And the older physicians, I think they are just more educated because they have to rely on their instincts in different cases and, their experience in helping people, right? Where these newer physicians, they have Google and they think that they can just...
They have to rely on their education. They have to rely on what they were taught in medical school, which is what they should have. In fact, I got to put your helmets on. I'm going to tell you a war story about that coming up right after the break here. You're watching Get Real America.
And we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Herschel Walker. I want to endorse Bruce Thompson as our new labor commission because he's going to do the best job you've ever seen for the great state of Georgia.
Listen, I'm standing here with the great Herschel Walker. We all know what's happened in our U.S. Senate, and it's time for a change. And I 100% endorse Herschel Walker to represent Georgia and the United States as we take back our country for the people of Georgia and for the United States.
God bless.
Welcome back, and we are about to hear a war story from Bill.
And I want to take whatever that lady is taking that we just
I know, right? That kind of energy.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Get out and dance.
Get
I like
fired
it.
up. Just before we get to the war story, let me mention about the MAGA forces that are taking this country backward. That the great uniter in chief mentioned last night in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly shove. At Independence Hall, that looked like it might have been. I thought for a minute he'd gone to Beijing.
Oh, for me, I thought
with
he was
with that red background.
In a different place. He looked very demonic to me. It was very disturbing.
It was indeed. But we just saw the lady that was
dancing,
all nice and
jazzed up.
Jazzed up. What was she taking? I want to know. And
probably the same thing as Biden. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you might be right. One of the things that we were talking about before the break was about medical education and young doctors today. My wife was an X-ray tech for a number of years with orthopedic physicians here, orthopedic surgeons, and the doctor who owned the practice was about probably 10, 15 years younger than one of his part-time partners who came in on a part-time basis. Still an excellent surgeon, was able to do, very extremely competent. But he was one of these guys who, when he told you to sit down, you didn't look for a chair.
You just
on
the floor, whatever.
So about the medical knowledge and what they used to teach in medical school. I remember one doctor telling me, a heart surgeon was telling me that he said when we were talking about, had him on as a guest on my radio show, and he was a World War II vet. He was a flight surgeon in the Second World War, and he came here. He was a heart surgeon here for years in Savannah, and we were talking about abortions and things of that nature, about people denying that this was a kid inside of you. And he said, when I was going to medical school, they taught us if you're treating a pregnant woman, you're treating two patients. You were taught that. You're treating two patients. But the doctor that was working part-time with the physician that my wife was working for, a gentleman came in I guess he was in his mid-50s or so, came in with his family, and because he was having some back pain, and said, what could he do for it? And I'll just call him Dr. Smith,
younger doctor.
The older doctor.
The older doctor, okay.
Fortunately, he was seen by the older doctor, and you'll find out why in a second.
Okay.
He's doing, and he recognizes some symptoms, and he looked at him and he said, I need you to get to the emergency room. This is not your back, it's your heart. And he said, no. And even his family said, no, there's nothing wrong with his heart. It's these problems with his back that he's having. And like I said, he was one of those people, you didn't argue with him. He said, get to the emergency room now. This is not your back, it's your heart. They got to the emergency room, and the emergency room physician said you were about 30 minutes away at the most from the Widowmaker.
Wow.
Which, if you're not familiar with the term, that's the clot that hit your heart and killed you instantly. And his younger partner said, how did you know that? He said, don't you remember medical school when they told us this, this, and this? He said, no. Whew.
It's scary.
It is.
It's very scary how they're not teaching in the same way, and they're not. I don't know. I've been to the younger doctors, and I will tell you the experience is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And the older doctors are willing to talk with you and say, okay, what's going on? Let's get to the root cause of this. Instead of...
Just like Kamala Harris. We need to get those root causes.
I didn't mean to use that buzzword. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
But they want to... Where the younger doctors, they're so quick to jump to that medication.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put you on something. It's like, I don't think I need anything, but they're so quick to jump to that. And the older doctors really will try to work with you on like, okay, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that, or more of the holistic stuff, where the newer doctors, they're just ready to give you some drugs.
And it's not all of the new doctor. I had to have a tooth out recently, and I really liked the guy. The guy came in and it looked like I thought he was in high school. But he came in and he explained how the procedure was going to go and what it was going to do, and he said this might be uncomfortable for over the weekend, and he gave me a prescription for something, but I never got it filled. He did a great job. I never experienced any overwhelming pain or anything like that. It was a little sore, but other than that, no problem. But he didn't say you have to do this. He said if you need it, just take this. You can go get it. So I appreciated that, and I appreciated his demeanor, bedside manner, as it were, as we call it in the biz, because I've had a surgeon who skipped the bedside manner part, but he's a damn good surgeon and did the job, and I'm still here to talk about it.
I was going to say, as long as they, I would rather have someone save my life that maybe doesn't have the best bedside manner than have someone that is so loving, so caring, that can't save my life because they don't have the skill.
And I don't care about the diversity of the operating room. I want people in there that know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much money that we spend. You would talk about the price of education, and of course now that I've got student loans again, and you do too, the paying back the student loan thing that the faux president has come up with. But I just can't imagine all the money that's going to be going into paying back these student loan debts. But I am one of the things that we need to concentrate on is getting rid of people that we don't need on the payroll. And one of them is the director of diversity. If we don't stop this diversity crap, I don't know what we're going to be doing in this country, because and they don't ever look at diversity of thought. It's only diversity of skin color. And you have to have so many percentages of each. And if you're Asian, forget about getting into college, most places, at least in some of the poison Ivy League schools. And those salaries, by the way, are at least in six figures.
Absolutely.
And they have several of them. I've been trying for the last 10 years to find out how many we have at the University of Georgia and how much they're getting paid, but I can't ever get an answer.
That's interesting. Do they fall under? Are they a government? Or are they private?
No, that's good. University of Georgia. It's a public school.
Okay.
So
I wonder if you can
the records should be available.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But how many directors of diversity do we have? That I know that there are some places we've heard that have 3 or 4, and I'm like, for what? I mean, how many do you need?
It should be the division department. That's what they specialize, is dividing everyone.
What we should do is say we've got 1,000 openings, let's say, in the freshman class, and you get the SAT score. They're trying to get away from that now, get rid of the SAT scores or ACT. I had to take the ACT to go to Ole Miss, which I found a better test. But you take the top scores, and maybe you look into the background of some of the kids that were they active in things like Key Club or some organization on campus.
Did they do community service? Like, what kind of person is this?
Mm-hmm. And accept those. Doesn't matter what color they are. Doesn't matter what gender they are or what gender they identify as. Just get the people that made the best scores and get them in there. And if they flunk it, and sometimes the people with the best scores can't take college, nor should they be there.
College isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
College isn't for everyone. And they've tried to make it for everyone so that they can continue to make money off of, these crazy
and look at how
degrees.
so look at how the prices have skyrocketed since colleges have found out they can get this money. All of a sudden, the prices have gone way, way up. My entire education at the University of Mississippi over 4.5 years, yes, I crammed a 4-year curriculum into 4.5, was less than what a semester costs now.
Yeah,
my entire college career, even counting for inflation, that was in the 60s and early 70s.
Well, so here's the other thing, Bill. They're not dealing with the actual problem. They're going to continue to fund student loans and all of that the same. So we're going to be right back where we started. I don't think the student loan forgiveness is going to happen. I think people can hold their breath about it. I think we'll see some legal cases where it's not constitutional. So, we'll see. They've been able to do a lot of things I didn't think they'd be able to do. So we'll see what happens. But they're actually not fixing the problem. They're putting a Band-Aid on it to try to get some votes. And we're going to end up in the same position with the next generation if we continue to push college the way that we do and allow these universities to indoctrinate kids.
What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get
a different result. That's what we have. They continue to double down on stupid. And we could save a lot of money on our colleges and university campuses by getting rid of directors of diversity. Quit thinking about what people look like and get people in there who are competent. As I said, when they're rolling me into the operating room, I don't care if the doctor's black, if it's male, female, whoever. In fact, I talked to a guy the other day, said that he had an attack. He felt uncomfortable, had an attack in the parking lot at the hospital.
What?
He was feeling had an upset stomach or something like that, and it was getting worse and worse.
Okay.
Turned out he had a ruptured bowel, and it happened right in the parking lot as he was just outside the emergency room. Thank God it was there.
Wow.
He wouldn't have made it to the hospital otherwise, probably.
Is he okay?
Yeah, now, but he said he didn't know if his doctor was male, female, white, black, or anything else, because he was totally unconscious once they rolled him into the ER, and then got him into surgery. His doctor told him later, said, You're not only lucky to be alive, I hope you never see what I saw. And getting him cleaned up, and had to have a colostomy.
Oh my gosh.
But they may be able to reverse it later. But he was at death's door. And the fact that he said and his surgeon turns out to have been a woman. But he didn't know that at the time and could have cared less. The fact is that he is alive and well, survived the operation, somebody who was extremely competent, and it didn't make any difference what color she was, what gender she identified as, or anything else.
Well, when you go out, Bill, do you think I need this color of person to wait on me or to interact with me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think about it. People are people to me. That's not something that I ever thought about until the last couple years, because now I feel like because of the color of my skin, I'm hated for that. That's awful.
It is. And they've done it, and the media has done a darn good job of it. We're getting in touch with our white rage. When I heard Milli Vanilli, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, honest to God, I'd have busted him so low he'd have had to salute civilians if I'd been president. When he said, I'm trying to understand what my white rage is, when he was talking to Congress. I said, I don't care what your white rage is. What is this white rage stuff? I'm sure that that Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are shaking in their boots that we've gotten in touch with our white rage, and that we understand our pronouns. That really is going to help the fighting force.
Yeah, those are things that I mean, I don't care about in general, but especially in the military, I want them to be prepared for whatever comes. Hopefully nothing will. But those are the things that they should be training for. They should not be sitting in a room talking about their pronouns.
Excellent point.
And when we get back, we're going to jump into that Project Veritas video to show kind of what's going on in the schools in Connecticut.
That's coming up.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America. Freedom is under attack in your state. Dictator Ron DeSantis incredibly lets you walk around without masks. That tyrant allows your kids to go to school during the pandemic, year 2 or 4, or who the hell knows. I urge you living in Florida to join the fight. Or join us in California, where we'll take the money you earn and give it to people who don't work. Visit San Francisco, where you can walk through human feces. If you're lucky, you might step on a syringe. Check out Los Angeles, where gas is so expensive, your kids only need to skip a meal or 2 or 10 to afford it. California, where freedom means lockdowns for you, while I go to the places you can't afford. Don't let them take your freedom. Come to California, where we'll take it, along with your money.
First of all, what I can do to make things better is bring people together. I love this country. I believe in peace through strength. If we have no strength, we're gonna have no peace. I believe in backing the blue. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everybody should have a chance to have their faith. Do we have problems? Yes. Can we solve them? Yes. Georgia is my family. The United States is my family. So I'm gonna fight and take care of them. I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Okay, we are going to see if we figured out that technical glitch, and we're going to jump into that Project Veritas video.
It's definitely a school where conservatives would not feel comfortable. I don't hide how I feel, but I can't pretend I'm promoting an agenda. Even though I clearly am. I can't promote all the stuff I'm doing. So when I started there, I hid my whole life. I felt like a double agent or something. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the white boys who feel like very entitled to express their opposite opinions and just push back. Well, there's a huge contingent of them that are just like horrible.
Meet Jennifer Norris, the Director of Student Activities at the 209-year-old Trinity School in New York City. The acclaimed K-12 school is private and costs nearly $60,000 a year per student. Norris met with one of our undercover journalists where she divulges, if not brags, about how her political views impact how she performs her job at Trinity, a school that prides itself, according to their website, as a place for, quote, a balanced educational program for body and soul.
Unfortunately, it's the white boys who feel like very entitled to express their opposite opinions and just push back. Well, there's a huge contingent of them that are just like horrible. And are you always going to be horrible? Or are you just going to be horrible right now? Don't know.
Is there any saving these Republican, white guys?
I think they need to go. No, I think they're really awful people. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm afraid of with my white students that are rich. I'm like, do you ever have to deal with this? They're so protected by capitalism that it makes me sad. So you find some Dexters who are gonna go together.
Yeah. I just wonder how many
vigilante.
Yeah. Oh no.
Taking people out. The show Dexter.
Oh yeah.
We just need some vigilante Dexters.
Oh yeah.
Here's your community of targets.
The reference to a fictional serial killer aside, the statements Norris makes regarding, quote, white male Republicans are disgusting, and she is confident in her abilities to further a secret curriculum without parents knowing about it, as she and others like her rise through the ranks at Trinity trying to influence their students' political activism in a 13 students per teacher ratio.
Like there's always groups of teachers who are like, I want to do these things, but the administration just wouldn't let us. So we've been sneaking things in the cracks.
You've been what now?
You know, it's like they don't, like the administration was much more conservative than most of us. Well, I'm really good friends with the associate head of school now.
Okay.
She was an English teacher.
Okay.
And then she just kind of moved her way up. She was the department chair, and now she's the associate head. And so I go and talk to her all the time, and she has been amazing. Like she really cares and has the power to change things. So I feel like I finally have like an in to get it.
You're an activist. That's cool. It's beautiful. Me too.
But when I started there, I hid my whole life. I felt like a double agent or something.
Yeah.
It's just nice. We don't have to hide our activism outside of school. We don't have to hide who we are. Like we can bring our whole selves to work and do the important work now. So with my role, I give them all the art supplies. Like we make posters together. We have people go to every march. They get excused from classes. Or
Which marches, like?
so they went to women's rights marches after Trump. They went to all the like gun ones, the March for Our Lives. When it's fun too because if they do march out of school, because sometimes it's a political protest.
Yeah.
And so we don't actually give them the grace period, but we do. We don't punish them. But if they do it, then they have to serve detention. And then during detention, we talk about social justice and like, do much more
So
education
it's kind of,
there.
it's really, you're giving them an opportunity to be encouraged.
It's like the punishment of detention, but it's not punishment.
Yeah,
at all.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you encounter any of that here, like parents or staff who are kind of conservative? And...
Not really. I mean, it's a 300-year-old school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly based on, white supremacy. And it was started in Trinity Church, which was like built by slaves. And they're starting to like grapple with the history of their school. But I think people know, I mean, we're not as left as I am, for sure, but it's definitely a school where conservatives would not feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of good.
and I just keep trying to like disrupt wherever I can.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in this position, I have so many opportunities to do that.
Norris is confident that her activism would make conservatives uncomfortable. Here she is explaining how she uses her position as the director of student activities to continually push her agenda.
2 days a week, I bring in speakers from outside.
Oh, cool.
And so that's been a huge opportunity for
Awesome.
me to like just bring things, any social justice issues or just people's experiences. They haven't had them.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun.
Do you have to fight with the staff about not letting conservatives speak?
No, I mean, I talked to the principal, and I was like, so if I'm running this, like, I'm 100% democratic with the students.
Yeah.
I will tell them the options, and they are voting. I'm not going to just be like, these are our speakers for the year. Like, I want to make sure the kids are engaged and care.
Yeah.
So I do put a lot of it on them, but I said, there are some speakers I am not even going to put on the plate for them. And if that's a problem, I cannot be in charge of that.
Yeah.
And he was like, no. He said, this isn't a time for the, like, both sides. Like, he said, we're not in that place in our society.
I like him.
So,
he's your dean, you said?
He's the principal of the high school.
Oh, okay.
So he's not, I want him to be more firm and, like, push back. But if I'm like, this is my line, then he's always like, that is totally fine.
So you guys wouldn't let Republican perspectives on campus? Good. That's
I
crazy.
will.
Yeah. Well, you're in charge, so.
Yeah, I'm in charge as far as
that's good.
they're concerned. Yeah. So if they want to do that, then somebody else has to do it.
But yeah.
It's not on my watch, I guess.
We decided to test the waters to see if Norris would allow for a drag queen story hour with kindergartners, and she told our journalists this.
No, it's funny. My friend Moses, the drag queen. I told him I'm on a date with a teacher, and he said, "I'll ask her if she'll have me at her school."
Sure.
So, would you do it? Are you open to having him talk about
his? I'm friends with all the librarians too, so I can see.
Well, like a drag queen thing.
Absolutely.
You'd be okay. What if he wants money though?
How much money?
You might be able to do
$500
or $700.
We have a lower school school. It's a K through 12 school.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be most effective with like the younger people.
Wants to like read to.
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, he loves that stuff. I think he wants to get in with him.
And I could talk to the director of libraries.
Okay.
Although Trinity School is a private institution, their alumni include New York City Council representatives, attorneys, politicians, corporate executives, and Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists. Do we want Norris's hateful rhetoric to influence some of the major institutions of the future? Stay tuned.
What incredible work by Project Veritas. I cannot believe that they're able to convince these people to go on dates and be recorded. I mean, they don't know that they're being recorded, but it's basically a date setup is how their journalism works. And this person is the director at a school.
Have you noticed that how much criticism Project Veritas has gotten from the mainstream media that used to love hidden camera videos, from 60 Minutes to 2020 to just about any other Dateline or whatever other show you can think of, their investigative reports. Oh, our undercover video, boy, this really shows the good stuff. Project Veritas does it and finds cretins like this who are poisoning the minds of American kids, and suddenly that's bad.
That's the thing, because they're not doing journalism anymore. So
Exactly.
When someone starts doing it, they're like, no, you're going to blow our cover. Don't do this stuff.
So I like the fact that she said that they're white students who are rich. This is a school that I understand was $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
Who's not rich going to that school?
That's a great question. Maybe they give away a scholarship or something. I don't know.
What about the black students that are rich, or the Hispanic students that are rich, or whatever?
No, she just hates the white males because they're so awful to deal with, and they push back on her opinions.
Yeah, so expressing their opinion, that's bad.
Yeah, when it's not.
When it's not, doesn't agree with hers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
they believe in free speech as long as you agree with them.
Exactly. And I can't imagine having a child in a school like this, especially when you're paying $60,000 a year for them to be indoctrinated by this woman who basically hates your kids. Can you imagine her talking about your son that way?
And the fact that these people are going to be turned loose on society within a few years.
Well, especially because you heard at the end of that there's a lot of people that come out of that school that end up in journalism, end up in public office, lawyers.
You mentioned New York City aldermen officials, as well as lawyers and people of that nature. It's scary. And this is what we're putting up with, and this is a private school. Of course, she seemed to be upset about that it was established by a church.
When you apply for a job somewhere that's called Trinity School,
Yeah.
what do you think you're getting into?
Sounds like a church to me.
It
Trinity
absolutely
indicates,
does.
the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Absolutely. And and the other thing with private schools is, what's wrong with it being a religious school?
Exactly.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think also religion teaches people a lot of structure and a lot of discipline, which we are definitely missing in the world we live in now.
Teaching things like the Bible is like any other book. Teach the Quran too, but for goodness sakes, you should give the kids a broad perspective over what they learn in the classroom, as far as to teach comparative religion classes as to who does what to whom here. I remember our 9-year-old grandson I was talking to, and this is about 20 years ago, but was talking to him about Noah's Ark. He didn't know what I was talking about. I was really disappointed that he didn't know about Noah's Ark and about the flood and things of that nature. It is amazing what the kids do not know these days. And well, I think that point was driven home to me. Jeff Foxworthy had this great show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? One of my favorite shows. And I'm sorry it's not still on, because I must admit I was embarrassed several times of missing the third grade science question or something along those lines. But we were talking about American history and how it's not taught anymore, or civics and things of that nature. Now, I can forgive the guy who was asked, this was, I think, was the $500,000 question, And you could get that question first, and if you wanted to drop out of school, you just took the money that you'd won and leave. When he was asked what on the Lewis and Clark expedition, what was Lewis's first name?
I'm not going to lie, I probably am not smarter than a fifth grader, Bill.
Okay. I could understand him dropping out of school on not knowing Clark's first name, or Lewis's first name, rather. But the guy who was looked like he was in his late 30s, perhaps, and was asked on the $250,000 question, who said, give me liberty or give me death, and he dropped out of school, I almost fell off the couch. I said that would have been the easiest $150,000 because he was already run $100,000, and we're going to be another $150,000 if he got that question. I said, well, here's a guy, he's going to get $250,000 next, and he said, and you could see the blank, you could do the deer in the headlights look in his face. And he said, I don't know, he'd already run out of all of his options on helping out with his 9-year-old classmate or something, and he drops out. Now I knew in the 5th grade, Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me." That was part of our social studies, was the Revolutionary War and the build up to it, and I thought that was as common knowledge as anything, as why there are 13 stripes on the flag.
Well, Bill, you see what they're teaching. You heard her saying that they're encouraging students to go on these walkouts and that they're basically forcing them to become activists by making them go march in different things against guns, against abortions, against, Donald Trump. And if they don't do it, they get detention to learn more about social justice. Mm-hmm. Isn't that something?
Yeah, good old social justice.
So
it doesn't exist.
They aren't teaching history. And I will tell you that they I don't even know what's important anymore. I guess just this activism and pronouns. That's really like all you see coming out of school now.
Mm-hmm. And what gender you are or identify with this week or today or this hour, as a matter of fact. And if you use the wrong pronoun, you're suspended. By the way, Lewis's name was Meriwether. William Clark and Meriwether Lewis.
I would have never known that.
Okay.
Ever. So thank you, Bill. He's always teaching me things.
I forgave him for that one. But not knowing who said "give me liberty" or "give me death" for $250,000, that is pathetic.
So I didn't watch that show very much, but was there a certain age group that typically was on that show?
Was no, the kids themselves were were 5th graders,
right,
for the most part.
But I mean the adults.
The adults were anywhere from probably in their 20s up to middle age, and the first person to win $1 million on that show, by the way, was the secretary of was the Georgia school superintendent.
Oh, that's a fun fact.
Yeah, the $1 million question was, which monarch in England had served the longest? And of course, recently it's just been broken by Queen Elizabeth II. But before Queen Elizabeth II, who was the longest serving monarch in English history?
I would fail, Bill. Who was it?
Queen Victoria.
Okay. Well, they don't teach American history, let alone
much less,
history.
Which is interesting because John Stossel, God bless him, when he was still with it, and God bless ABC for that matter. Let's give credit where credit's due. Even to stop clocks right twice a day. He did a special called "Stupid in America," and boy, did the teachers unions get their shorts in a wad over this one. He went to the best school, what they called the best school in New Jersey, the one that was the top. All the kids in the class were AP students, advanced placement students, and he gave them an American history test. He went to a school in Belgium, gave those students just an average, just your standard average school in Belgium. He also explained that in Belgium you could you had school choice. You could go to the school you wanted to, and the money went with the student. So if Johnny is going to go to school X and wants to go to school Y, the money goes with him. He gave the kids in the New Jersey school on the American history test made in the 70s. The kids in Belgium were asking why the test was so simple and was making and the lowest score was like a 90.
Oh my gosh.
You're watching Get Real America.
And we just got real. The education department needs some adjustments.
Why do we need to get real? We like to talk about the good kids because the media spends so much time talking about the bad ones. I want to talk about a great high school athlete here in Savannah who just won. He just set a new record at her school. Next.
We'll be right back.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking. Today's training evolution, dogfighting, taking on the corporate media. The rules of engagement are as follows. Number 1, don't fire unless fired upon, but when they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force. Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill. Number 2, never ever back down from a fight.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or ask a question? Number 3, don't accept their narrative. It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts. It's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
What's Jonathan?
First of all, what I can do to make things better is bring people together. I love this country. I believe in peace through strength. If we have no strength, we're gonna have no peace. I believe in biking the blue. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that everybody should have a chance to have their faith. Do we have problems? Yes. Can we solve them? Yes. Georgia is my family. The United States is my family. So I'm gonna fight and take care of them.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Welcome back. We are now talking about some good news, some exciting news.
I want to talk about the schools real quick before we jump into talking about the good kids necessarily. But you know, we just had that Ron DeSantis ad, and how he's been besmirched by the media and the left.
He's worse
and the
than
Democrats.
Trump now. Did you hear
that?
Yeah.
By the media and the left. But I repeat myself. Nevertheless, when they came out with the, you're not going to start teaching kids about transgenderism in kindergarten and through the third grade, and it was only kindergarten through third grade. I wish they'd gone kindergarten through 12th grade.
It's none of their business.
But it became the "Don't Say Gay" bill.
Yep, and there's not even gay
and there's nothing in the bill that has that. And that was one of the things that he was talking about with that reporterette from the Communist Broadcast System, CBS, when she was trying to make a point, and he said, "Tell me have you read the bill? Tell me what's in the bill." And she couldn't do it, of course, because she hadn't read it. But notice how well the red state. We just had the report come out about how the kids are so far behind now because of all the lockdowns and because they were wearing these stupid, worthless masks, and they had to get these shots that are probably might be killing them. So the red states are far and above any of the blue states that were completely shut down. Here in Georgia, we were doing a lot better, and Brian Kemp and Ron DeSantis both took huge brickbats for opening up the state and said, we're not going to be closing down. Kids shouldn't be wearing masks. And, of course, that was left up to the local school system. And unfortunately, here in Chatham County, they required our kids to put masks on. They didn't at some of our private schools, and those kids were doing very well.
And that's good news. And I think it's also proof that we should not go back to wearing masks, even though I know that a lot of people are debating that still, which is crazy.
There is, we want to talk, and we'd like to hear from you. We want to start doing a feature on the good kids. Inspiring youth is what I'd like to call it. So we'd like to know what your kid is doing, or if you're a kid watching, what you're doing. And we want to highlight what you're doing, because the media spends so much time. If you go out today and start breaking windows and stealing cars, you're going to be making headlines. I'd like the kids who are doing well and doing great things to make headlines. I was a sportscaster here for almost 30 years and on television. And there is a young lady, St. Vincent's Academy here in Savannah is the premier all-girls school. I think it's our only all-girls school, as a matter of fact. And they all, I think, identify as girls.
That's so weird.
I think so, too, yeah. But there's a young lady by the name of Maddie Lynch. There's a picture of her in the Savannah Morning News today, or what's left of it. And she has just set a record as a volleyball player. She just had on Tuesday, she put her name in the SVA, St. Vincent's Academy, record books, as registered her 223rd block.
Wow.
And in volleyball, that's a big deal.
So
how many
is
block
that
shots?
Is that in a season or is that total?
Her career. She's
Okay.
a senior this year.
Oh, that's so cool.
But in her career, she registered her 223rd block, and
That's amazing.
That prevents a score from by the other team.
That is so awesome. And how is her team doing in Savannah?
They usually do very well. You always see them in the playoffs. In fact, their rifle team is one of the best in the state.
Did you just say rifle?
I said rifle.
Like a gun?
Like a gun.
They have that here?
They have that here.
Oh my goodness.
And Benedictine is our all boys Catholic school here. They have an excellent rifle team as well, but the girls consistently beat them.
Wow.
Much to their male ego is bruised considerably, but the girls are outstanding. In fact, kind of apropos nothing, but had my wife and stepdaughter and I were taking a great gun safety course from a great gentleman here who owned a gun shop, and he was so impressed. And Monica, our daughter, had never really fired a gun before. Went out with us on this course, and she was so good and so accurate that about halfway through the course, he said, "You need to start entering in competitions, because you are really, really good at this." And so they have a great rifle team. Now they use kind of a pellet rifle now. When I was in school here, we still used the .22 rifles.
Okay.
In fact, our rifle team I went to Groves High School here, and they had the bolt action old Springfields, and kids used to get on the bus with these things, sometimes not even in the case.
I don't know if that would be allowed now.
To go to a rifle competition across town, and nobody thought a thing of it. We had Future Farmers of America. So we were kind of a rural school to a degree, and the kids came in their pickup trucks with the rifles
on the racks
in the back. Nobody said a word. The trucks were left unlocked. Nobody broke in and stole. Nobody got shot. In fact, school shootings were
non-existent at that point.
In fact, teachers were God. You got in trouble in school for chewing gum in class, or getting caught in the hall without a hallway pass during class period. Oh, let me slit my wrist. Good Lord, that's what you got in trouble for. But the kids with the guns, get on the gun with the bus, get on the bus with a gun, and go to the rifle competition. Nobody said a word. Nobody worried about it. Nobody got shot. Only the little paper targets got hit.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the other thing. There was a lot of, even with my dad, we were taught how to carry a gun, how to respect a gun. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that you need to be taught if you're going to be around guns. And when you have people that are not familiar with what gun safety is, you get someone like Alec Baldwin and how wonderful of a human he's been to everyone. But, anyone knows that you don't point a gun at someone. I mean, pretty standard stuff.
What is the first thing they teach you in gun safety? Always consider the gun
is
loaded.
Yep.
Always. I don't care if you're on the movie set, and we still haven't heard exactly why he is out of jail and how a live round got in that gun in the first place. You have an armorer that works on the set. You are supposed to get this gun, and they say, when they hand it to you, they say your gun. You're supposed to say my gun, and the next thing you're supposed to do is check it.
Yep. But if you don't grow up around guns, and I'm sure Alec Baldwin has had some sort of class about this. He's been in acting for how long? And he's been in plenty of movies. But anyways,
all this trouble he's in. He's even got, still got a podcast on iHeartMedia. Thank you very much.
He's actually being sued by the family of the soldier that died in Afghanistan last year. I believe he was 20 and a half when he died. He's being sued because he took a personal post that his sister had posted and sent it out to his followers, and he knew that they would attack her, and they have. She said that people are calling her cell phone at all hours of the day and night, texting her, harassing her family. He's the one that his wife was pregnant when he passed, and so she had a baby this year, so she has a little baby. So not only is his sister and parents getting harassed, but now his wife is also being harassed. So they're actually suing him right now.
So we still haven't heard exactly what happened on that set.
No.
But if you remember, one of my favorite movies, and he was terrific in the role, was The Hunt for Red October.
Okay, that's a great movie.
And that was his first major role. And Brian De Palma, wasn't Brian De Palma. I'm trying to remember who the director was, but the reason that was part of a series that Tom Clancy had written. Okay. And Jack Ryan was he played and Baldwin played Jack Ryan, the CIA agent. But the next 2 or 3 movies, Clancy movies that came out, suddenly Harrison Ford was Jack Ryan and not Alec Baldwin. You know why?
I don't know why.
Because he was such the north end of a southbound horse that directors didn't want to work with him.
Can you define what that means, Bill?
He was a jackass.
Okay. Thanks for that.
It was a horse's patoot. And they didn't like his attitude. He was difficult to work with. So they said, we're not.
And nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. I'm sure many of you have heard of the audio of the telephone call that he made to his 11-year-old daughter when he was fussing at her over standing him up for some meeting or something. The names that he was called, the things that he was saying to an 11-year-old girl were just despicable.
Yeah, he's not a good person, and I don't know how he's lasted in Hollywood except for the fact that he's so left-wing.
They stand up for each other. They're all not all like that. We have friends here who are in the movie business who say when they go out there to make movies or to work on movies, they have to keep their mouth shut when they sit around in some of these meetings. And by the way, you've been talking about wokeness that has permeated our culture now. The Hollywood producers will not produce or distribute your film unless you have diversity on the crew. If you don't have so many blacks or Hispanics or women or something as camera operators or grips, if you know what a grip is, that's a person that carries all the heavy equipment, and the key grip is the head grip. Got the term, by the way, from what we used to call when they first started movies, carrying all that equipment. Finally, somebody said, I'm going to put all this in a suitcase. Suitcase is a nickname for that. My grandmother used to refer to it all the time as the grip.
Okay, I did not know that.
Grab your grip, because you gripped it and walked out. So that's how they got the term. That's where the term grip comes from. So just apropos nothing. But if you don't have diversity in your production staff, doesn't matter what the film looked like. Doesn't matter if you've got the next Academy Award winner.
But it does matter what the film looks like.
If it was an all-white crew, you're not going to get your movie distributed. You have to do it yourself.
Well, now you can't even have. You have to have. There's all these check boxes you have to meet, even with your film. Mm-hmm. Like how many actors are black? How many actors are Do you have a gay character? Do you have this? Do you have? The requirements make the art. It takes the art out of it, right? It makes it so stories are not being told in the way that they should be told.
Don't ever get your history from Hollywood, by the way. Even though they say, based on a true story.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
loosely
there's that.
based.
Yeah, loosely based for the most part. Some of them are very good,
mm-hmm.
But a lot of them go far afield, maybe sometimes just for the dramatics of it. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, made here. Not very good.
Bill is not a fan.
No, they concentrated on Lady Chablis, the guy who dressed up as rather than the main character of the story, the real story of Jim Williams, an antique dealer who murdered Danny Hansford, his lover and assistant.
And that was Kevin Spacey in the film, right?
Kevin Spacey played Jim Williams in the film. Clint Eastwood directed it. It was beautifully photographed. They had some beautiful shots of Savannah in there.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the fact that we had these, they go into these history and sort of change the topic or change the actors. They try to make most of them try to make the actor look kind of like the person that they're supposed to be portraying. But I remember they were going to do it was mentioned they were going to do a Three Stooges movie, a movie on the history of the Three Stooges sometime back, and one of the directors or one of the producers out there wanted to put Eddie Murphy in as one of the Three Stooges. Now, for
interesting
those of you who
choice.
don't know, that the Three Stooges were all white, and Eddie Murphy isn't. And now they've gone to the extreme of, if you're portraying a black person, you not only have to be black, but you have to be American black or something. If you're from Haiti or something, that's not acceptable. Charlton Heston was not Jewish, but he played Moses.
Well, not only that, they're also saying like you can't play someone that has, a missing leg or like just any of these roles now unless you actually have that. So it's like, so where are you going to find all these actors that have all of these actual problems? Like,
what would Gary Sinise's career have been like? He was Lieutenant Dan who had lost his legs in Vietnam, and he became a second career for him. And Gary Sinise is one of the finest people you'd ever want to meet, and he became such a fan of the U.S. military because you read his book, and he was so stunned by the reaction of Vietnam veterans of his portrayal in that role. He was invited to make speeches and things, and so that he formed the Lieutenant Dan Band. He's been here on several occasions. I've had a great chance to meet with him and interview him. What a delightful guy. Comes in a couple of years ago. He was here serving lunch at Hunter Army Airfield to soldiers. He's there
So cool.
On the food line, serving the soldiers and talking to them. Then he goes out to Fort Stewart, home of the 3rd Infantry Division, and serves them dinner. And then he puts on this big performance that night with the Lieutenant Dan Band, and he does so much to help the military. And sometimes he'll just show up at some of these rally, coming home type rallies. And he is such a Gary Sinise is the real thing, and just a delightful person.
but also like how cool is it that a movie role that he played, he wouldn't be able to get now, but that he played back then really changed how he devoted his time and like how he interacted with people, because some people don't find that connection in a role. So very cool that he was able to do that.
Yeah, because and he mentions, in a great book of his, how stunned he was at first. He's being invited to all these things, and why? And then he realized what that meant to the Vietnam veterans who were not treated very well when they came home. Thank God we've made up for lost time on that, and we have the second largest St. Patrick's Day parade in the world here in Savannah. And when the Vietnam veterans now march through the parade, they get applauded and they get kisses and everything else. Not like when they got home and they got spit on or yelled at. And I know that one of our Vietnam vets, it's a good friend of mine here, said when he got off the plane from Vietnam, he'd won a Bronze Star. And he said it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it was raining. All he wanted to do was grab his rucksack and get the hell out and get home. There was no big welcoming committee, no big rally for them when they got here. And all the rallies that I've been to since, thank God, we're welcoming these people back. You will see a lot of Vietnam veterans. You'll see them with their caps on, especially the one said that we were winning when I left. And they said, I said, and why are you here? He said, just not only to welcome these guys home, but to give them the reception that we didn't get.
Okay, I just got chills when you said that, because I hope that our generation learns that from them, because I think that there's a lack of respect and a lack of caring about other people.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that older people, they're kinder, I think that they just are more understanding of people. Yes. I mean, I will tell you that my friends typically are not my age. They typically are a little bit older. They have more experience, and they're more accepting of people. They understand that, maybe we don't agree on things, but they'll show up for you.
We talked earlier about your experience as a doctor. Did you like the older doctors as opposed to the younger doctors who might be, if you come in there and they don't know what they're looking for, they Google it.
Or they just offer you drugs to fix everything.
Yeah, we do that with our kids in school too.
Yep.
But the most amazing thing is that we had a church class one time, and our Sunday school teacher asked us, and it sounds like almost the same word, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge?
What was the answer?
What do you think? What's the difference between knowledge and wisdom?
I think knowledge is something you can get out of a book.
Mhm.
Wisdom is something that you've learned over time.
Exactly. Wisdom is the experience applying knowledge. You could read a book on anatomy and a book on how to take somebody's gallbladder out, but lay them on the table and hand them a scalpel and say, okay, now you do it. There's a difference. Okay, I know how it's done, but I don't know how to do it.
Yep. Well, I think that applies to college in general.
Mhm.
When people get out of college, I mean, they're taught textbook things. They're not taught that, guess what, in a textbook, things look perfect, right?
Yeah.
When you get out of the textbook, things don't operate perfectly, and so you have to learn to adjust, and that comes with wisdom and experience.
It's what Georgia Tech was the first school that I knew that actually did this. I think a lot of them do now, but they had you went to school for a semester and then you worked in that field that you were studying for a semester. So when you
Why don't we do that?
So when you got your diploma, you actually knew what you were doing when you got out. Savannah College of Art and Design here is one of the most expensive art schools in the world, but they have kids working in the real world. They have the real stuff that they're working with. It's expensive, but they have the best stuff. And we've had kids, speaking of, I worked in the video department there for a while. When they went off, maybe to California, applied at Disney, said, "Do you know how to work? The Rebus 285 or whatever?" I said, "Well, of course I know how to work the Rebus." "Oh yeah, sit down and do it." And then they would do it. And all of a sudden they get this $50,000 or $60,000 a year job right out of the gate, because they knew how to operate it. They didn't just read about it and then didn't see it on a video.
That's how it should be.
Exactly.
That's how it should be. Hands-on experience. I think we should start in high school,
Mhm.
and that should carry into college.
Exactly. And we need blue-collar workers.
Yes,
we still need plumbers. We still need people to work on cars, whether they're electric or still have, that evil gas power.
And guess what? They're going to be making more money than any of the laptop generation.
Sure are. So that's going to wrap it up for us. We got Labor Day coming up, and because it is Labor Day, we're going to be laboring.
We will be here on Monday, so you better tune in. YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify. We're out there. Follow us. Make sure you subscribe.
Share this with your friends. Let them know, and we'd like to get your reaction. So give us some feedback. We'd like to know about the good kids. We want to know about people that are doing good things in the community, because we don't want this to be just this political rant all the time. We want to find out what people are doing in the community, and we'll also keep you updated on what's going on weather-wise and things of that nature. We'll keep an eye on the tropics with hurricane season now in its most active month. We have a couple of storms we're looking at. They don't seem to be threatening us right now, but we'll keep you posted on those too.
Yes, and this weekend, go get involved. There's lots of stuff going on in Savannah. There is definitely something for everyone. So enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
See ya.